Hello everybody and welcome back to Stellaris, and welcome today to our look at combat phases. So this is something we've kind of touched on when we're talking about ship designs and whatnot, but today we're going to get really into the nitty-gritty about the combat phase and what some of the things we can do to improve ourselves. So looking at things like, you know, how we're going to combat each individual enemy. Bear in mind that each different playthrough you do will completely differ to what we're doing here, so make sure you take the idea and employ it into your own design and find the enemy's weak points from there. So as mentioned, we are going to look at the first part of our combat phase, which is going to be our composition of ships. Now there's a lot of question as to, you know, what's the best composition. There is no best composition. You could have the exact same ship as the enemy and still come out on top or come out worse. And as I've mentioned when we've talked about our ship designs, the actual overall power, the military power of our ships, doesn't determine who's going to be the winner. You can have a seriously undernumbered, underpowered fleet, but if you've got the right defense systems, you could come out on top. So, like any good battle that you're ever going to do, information is key. When we talk about information, you know, anything that we ever do in any kind of real life situation, the first thing we do is get intelligence, and this is exactly what the game does for you. So we're obviously on war on this. I've left this kind of playthrough as it is so we could use it because we can attack the enemy and get away with it. And the first thing it does is if you've got sensors around, obviously we're out on the border here, if you've got anything around here, like I've got the stations, it will pick up fleet movement. Now, if you're not at war, you want to try and find these fleets and see what they're building. The reasoning behind that is if you know what the fleets are made up of, you can combat that. So their first forward defense fleet here is made up of corvettes. Now, we've got a fleet which is made up of corvettes and destroyers. So we can actually already kind of have a little bit up on them, but let's have a look at more detail. So if you click on your fleet detected or click on the fleet itself, and you get in this menu here, you'll see it shows ship details. Click on that and it'll give you a loadout of each individual ship, and we can see what they're running. So straight away we can see they're using point defense weaponry. They're using a small red laser and a coil gun, so they're generically playing here. You can see what the composition of armor and shields are, and you can also see that they've got an orbital trash dispenser. Not a massive worry, but obviously when we come to being overrun, if we do, then that can play a part when we've got orbital defense systems. Not a major thing for us at the moment because we're just holding off and they're not going to be taking many of our planets. We only have 3 planets anyway, and we've got more than enough to defend it. But it's something to bear in mind later down the line if you're being attacked by the enemy as to why they're taking out your planets, is to just notice things like that. So what can we see from this here? Well, the first thing is missiles are less useful. So if your fleet are running missiles, the point defense systems will take them out, and you're straight away weaker. So you're already down on one thing there. Next thing is small red lasers. So obviously they are stronger against armor, and small coil guns, which are stronger against shields. So the generic, there's nothing that says, well, if I put a ton of shields on, that then the red lasers can't get through. Well, then the coil guns will just take out the shields. So in terms of your armor and shield composition, you've not got too much to worry about here. If you had something where, you know, you had both of them coil guns, then you want to maximize on your armor, and vice versa. Next thing we want to look at is they're running more armor than they are shields. So we want to run more red lasers to take out their armor. Obviously, once we take out their armor and their shields, we can then take out their hull points. So the quicker we do that, the quicker we take out the ships. So let's have a look at our composition. Oh, that's not the one. There we go. So there are Caravan Ships, which are designed. So we're running 3 lasers and 2 coil guns, and generic shielding and armor plating. So we're already built to take out the armor. That will wipe them out a lot faster than it will do if we had it the other way around. But can we do more? Well, let's have a look. So, as we don't need point defense systems because they're not running missiles, we can actually run a gunship system. So a gunship bow and a gunship stern, which is running a 2 medium lasers, one front, one rear, a small blue laser, and a small coil gun. So straight away we have 3 times the armor damage and 1 times the shield damage in comparison to turrets. Still same composition of shields and armor, and we're just using afterburners so our fleet's a little bit quicker. And we've aptly named this the Combat Destroyer. So when we come to upgrade our fleet now, we can see what they're going to do. Hopefully they'll take on the Combat Destroyer role. So we'll just get them upgraded and then we'll move them back into combat.
We have detected hostiles.
Okay, so they're going to take out the system here. Okay, so this is the forward defense fleet that we were checking out earlier, and we can see that straight away they've come into the system. They're already trying to avoid our orbital defense platform, or our space station. So when we're talking about combat, the things like this is very important, and at a glance we can see that there are 19 corvettes in this, so that's another thing to note as well. It's nice to know what you're facing, and at a glance it shows you. So the likelihood is they're going to bypass our system and go onto Kongath, where we have our survey ship working. So he's currently defenseless at the moment. Our fleet is currently upgrading, so we are currently leaving the door open for the enemy. So that's one thing to note when you're doing combat, is they don't have to necessarily engage your starbases. A very good important thing to note, and I have mentioned it in the past, but since we're concentrating solely on combat today, I will reiterate that. So if you are at war, or if you know of incoming attacks, the best thing you can do is placing fleets that are midway between your points. So if you had it here, they could just come across here, so you want to put something here. Because what that does is it'll bring them closer, because they'll engage your fleet. If it gets to a certain range, they'll automatically engage, which will then bring them in to the range of the starbase, which is sat there. And yep, so we got a few bits and bobs in the way there, but that's not a problem. They'll probably be ignored. They'll go for the starbase straight away. 9 times out of 10 they ignore any kind of platforms or anything like that, because when they capture the starbase they capture the system, in principle. So what can we do from here? Well, we can let them continue coming, which will disrupt our surveying, but we can upgrade our fleet. Or we can cancel the upgrade, and we can bring our fleet in to attack them. But we'll let it upgrade for now. And we'll let them come into...
Interstellar debris analyzed.
There we go. Let's see where they're going. So as you can see, they have avoided the starbase completely. But we are now upgraded, so we will meet them. So our military power is 1.4k. They're only at 800k, so straight away you can already glance that we're quite overpowered compared to them. But bear in mind, if some of your fleet is designed in such a way that their combat ability is higher, as in, you know, this system's here. There we go, there goes our... It's not a problem. Okay. Our fleet will now intercept them.
Our sign ship is under fire.
Okay, so they are actually going into the system. So as you can see,
spaceport under fire.
As you can see, having that, even that science vessel there has dragged them into the range of the starbase. Our fleet has arrived. Now there are disengaged chances, and that's all down to the ships you're using. Obviously corvettes have a higher disengaged chance, which means you will more than likely keep your ships. Less evasion chance, the more likely you are to lose the ships, and you have to start all over again. Our fleet is engaged. Now, as you can see, some of the corvettes... Oh, there we go. The corvettes have evaded us. So now we need to research the project systems. Research the debris, because, again, as previously advised, that will help us on our science projects. Now, as you notice, we didn't see them coming because these space stations here aren't fitted with various... Oh, actually... We can probably... can we do it? We can't yet. No, we haven't got it yet. So... Later down the line, you'll get some like extended sensors and stuff like that. Listening posts. Which will help you spot enemy movements a lot easier. So... All in all, that is... Combat. The basics of combat, really. It's as simple as that. There we go. Look at that. There's the fleet there. So let's employ our tactics that we have, or that we know about, or they're going to escape anyway.
Construction completed.
So let's see if we can employ the same tactic and chase after the fleet. We'll increase the speed of the game, so you can micromanage your fleet quite nicely. Now, one thing to note here is the FTL inhibitors. So, this is an important thing. As you can read there, hostile fleets will be unable to leave the system for any other hyperlane than the one they have entered from.
Interstellar debris analyzed.
Now, I've ignored that up until now because, well, I'm going to show you the effects it has. So, there you go. There's no route for the selected fleet to reach this system. That is priceless. Now, we're not running it at the moment because we've upgraded our fleet to our space stations so that they have... Well, this one hasn't been upgraded yet, but this one has. So we've upgraded it so it's a bit more defensible. And then we can block them by... Okay, so we haven't actually got it yet. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to try and get these FTL inhibitors placed on our stations so that we can do the same thing to them. And now I've covered the basics of what to do when you don't have them, because the likelihood is your early game still, and you may not have them. You may have concentrated on other things. So what we have to do now is take out the starbase. And again, just like anything else, we can see the starbase is about half the strength of us, so we should be able to take it out, hopefully. Starbases have an advantage that they're obviously a lot bigger, they're a lot more powerful, even though they don't have as much military power as what they're showing. So we're going to lose some fleets here, so let's see how much damage we do. Okay, so we are in...
Hostile station. Construction completed.
Now it's worth noting that whilst you're engaged with the starbase, you can either choose to try and retreat, which we can't because we've no FTL yet. Now we can retreat if we need to, but obviously we've took the starbase out. If they'd sent an enemy fleet in, then we couldn't disengage. They would try and attack us.
Completed.
But now we've captured that station, we have the FTL inhibitor on our side now, so we can now choose where we head. Now they've pulled back into their system quite heavily because they're obviously losing the war quite considerably. So we can either continue to push in the hopes of attacking more of their systems, which we will do.
Construction completed.
Keep in mind that your fleets are taking damage. And we will try and move a bit further in. Okay, that's another of the systems in our hands now. So we've got a good foothold in. Now remember, we're only playing to basically, well, we're not actually going to gain anything here. So as you can see, our actual war goal is just to humiliate them. If we had the conquer war goal, then we would be able to take the systems that we've claimed and captured. Oh, where have we gone? There we go. So the choice really is what you want to do now. If you want to continue moving in and taking out what you can, then what you're going to do is severely weaken them, but at the cost of extending your reach away from your system. They could come in behind you and enter your system quite easily until they reach your FTL inhibitors. But you've only got the one fleet, so this is where it comes down to using more than one fleet. If you've got the ability, try and split up your fleets so you can leave one to defend your back entrance, such as the Bertios here or Amastes, something like that. You leave a fleet here, which is enough to disrupt any fleet coming in, that your main fleet can then join them, or you attack as one and just push through as fast as you can. Realistically, if you push to Yump here, then they're locked off from this whole section anyway. However, you've got the capital, which means you're probably going to get a hefty beating there if you've not prepared. Now, if you remember from the previous episodes, you'll note that actually we were inferior. They were overwhelming to us when it came to power. They're now equivalent because we've given them a pasting on their fleets. So even though this just says superior, equivalent, overwhelming, that boils down to your diplomacy. That's what that will affect. It does not affect whether or not you're going to survive. An overwhelming force will more than likely cause you some issues, but you still got a chance to take them out, cause some damage, and if you're tactical about it by retreating, repairing your fleets and then getting back out, you can take an overwhelming force and defeat them. So don't read too much into that. Okay, so that's basics of combat and how to counter each combat, but there's nothing really I can show you that will win it in any situation. One of the things I said to you earlier on in this episode is about the situation that you're in. We know what the fleets are made up here. These fleets here are just your drop ships, so you don't need to worry about them. You'll always take them out. They're to try and take out your planets. The one thing you want to concentrate on is their main fleets. And at the moment we can't see their main fleets because we're at war and we haven't got tactical information on them. So that is the key. Is get the tactical information, find out what the fleet's made up of, and then counteract it. Bear in mind, one enemy may not run the same as another enemy. And I can't spot any fleets around. Nothing around the general area. Now if we... I can't see anything at all there. So I can't show you another empire. However, another empire may run different fleets. In that case, you will have to create a new design to combat that. So that's when it comes into using multiple fleets when you're facing more than one enemy. Now, if you remember in one of the episodes I said try and use choke points. This is why it is crucial to use choke points. If you choke off, so we got 3 enemies here that we've choked, where we got choke points. So we can only ever face the 3 enemies, unless they obviously team up and bring in more enemies, but that's obviously a later game. This is early game at the moment. You're more than likely to face the same fleet composition from that empire. So you can counteract it quite easily by using the same technique we've just learnt there and bringing it on board, and hopefully you should stand on top almost every time, depending on obviously fleet sizes. Overwhelming numbers will ultimately defeat you, but only to an extent. So things like this is a bit trial and error, but hopefully with having the technique you've got there where you can build your fleet and a knowledge of your ship designs from the previous episodes, hopefully you might stand a chance. Now the one thing we haven't touched on that I cannot show you at the present moment because we don't... Do we have a... No, that's the stars. I don't think there is any planets. Right, I tell you what then, what I'll do is I'll push forward and we'll show the planet combat. Okay, so we have actually taken the home world, or at least we are currently blockading the system. Now there are a couple of things we can do. At the moment we don't hold Mishri, which is their home world. So what we can do If I get the fleet, we can enter the orbit with the fleet. So if we do that now, and let's have a look. So as you can see, they've already
Research concluded.
So as you can see, what they're doing now is they're actually bombarding the planet of Mishri, orbital bombardment. So you can cause devastation, you can cause them a lot of issues, because likelihood is they're going to claim this back when we complete the war. So there's a couple of things we can do here. Is we can actually attempt to take that planet. And by the ways of doing that is you go to one of your planets. That's the sun itself. Earth is so small. Where are we? There we go. Hit your armies,
Interstellar debris analyzed.
and you can recruit armies. So you can recruit assault armies here, which will then give you. There we go. You get a transport fleet. You need to assign a leader, as usual. What have I got here? Army upkeep. So what this does is this can, as you can see, you can land your army and hopefully capture a planet. So we'll just wait for that to produce the other 3 that I've put on, and then we'll send it to the home world and see what we can do. Now, in the meantime, we're bombarding it. There's a couple of things with bombardment. You're causing devastation, so not only is that going to affect when you've captured it, because you're going to continue with that devastation, and as you can see, if you go above 25%, it does start killing population, and as you can see as well, it does give them still an advantage, which is if it's below 25%, they still only take half damage from the bombardment. Now, there's not much of the army here, and we've got a much stronger force coming. So I'd argue to say, actually, we don't want to continue bombarding, and we want to stop, because our fleet should be able to take them out. But look, they're growing. Their health is improving. So, and this is the reason why I've done this, if you're going to take out a planet, you need to time your bombardment along with your fleet. Now our armies are ready, so we shall bring them up and attempt to capture the planet. So I'm just going to send my fleet there, and we will pop back when they arrive. Okay, welcome back everybody. As you can see, our army has arrived in the system, so we're going to take out our Mishri here. So let's see what happens.
Our forces are making planetfall.
There we go.
War report. Enemy planet secured.
Excellent. So we have taken it. So this is their empire capital. So even though we're currently we've took them out completely 100%, they will more than likely surrender at this stage, and they did offer us a status quo. So we can choose here now. We can offer them a status quo, which means nothing happens. We can surrender, giving them what they want. Both of them will be accepted completely, and we can achieve our war goals. Now, the likelihood is they will not accept this. So if we send it, they will refuse. There we go. So we can continue to hold them off, but as our war exhaustion is 100%, they will never accept it. So we're just going to end up costing ourselves a lot of money. And why I'm covering this in the combat phase is very important, because there we go. While we hold this, we are losing credits, we're losing money, we're holding fleets, and obviously we're expanding our systems, so it's a lot harder to hold on. So that's got to be you got to bear that in mind when you're doing these combat phases. But if you read into this here, we are forced to make peace 24 months after reaching high war exhaustion. That is the status quo. So what we'll do is we'll just hit the status quo now. Okay. And everything we've done here will revert back to them. So we will bring our fleets back. Oh, they didn't learn from the last war. So we'll send our fleets back. So they can't attack us now for quite a while. Yes, whatever. So that's war and combat in a nutshell.
The special project has concluded.
Excellent. So there's a lot to keep your mind on in this game, and it's quite a hectic game. So take your time, keep the speed down. I put it on fastest because we were obviously trying to get through things. Critique everything, analyze everything, and you can combat quite effectively without doing too much. I mean, there's laws we got to do. We've got to upgrade all our space stations. We've got to upgrade our planets. We've got our traditions to do. We've got our fleet to repair and upgrade and resupply. We've got to try and get our energy credits back up because we're losing a lot of energy credits for some reason. A lot happening in quite a short space of time, and we're almost reaching mid-game. So 2300 is set for mid-game for us, which is where we'll start seeing a lot more combat phases. So that is it for this episode. We've touched on combat, we've touched on taking out the planets. If there's anything else you'd like to know that I haven't covered, please make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below. Someone asked about the combat phase, which is why this one's coming out a little earlier than I had anticipated. But you know, if you want to know, then let me know and I'll bring them out. There's a couple of things we still got to cover, like the mid-game and some of the things we want to do before we hit mid-game, such as making sure your defences are up, make sure your fleets are up, make sure you've got certain fleet types, like the cruiser, because the cruiser is quite handy. And yeah, so hopefully we will move into mid-phase quite soon with a decent outlook on it. And there's some of the things we also need to look at, things like the gateway systems, which is late game, which can cause us quite a lot of chaos. And there's obviously a lot of traditions and a lot of technologies we haven't got yet, which are going to play a massive part in this game. This is literally the tip of the iceberg at the moment, so there is a lot more to be had yet. Just another point I will say before going is make sure you repair and upgrade your fleets when they have come back from any kind of combat or anything like that. And if you need to, reinforce your fleet, which will add what it believes you need for this composition. So we've set that, and Sol will start building it for us. So until next time, everybody, take care for now. Hopefully this has given you enough information on the combat phases. If you'd like any more tips and tricks on combat, then please leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up to let me know you've enjoyed this episode. Until next time, take care for now. Bye bye.